Well, elsewhere, it's been a week once again of Brexit discussions and the question of whether or not the UK should remain in some kind of a customs union with the EU. Many of the most prominent supporters of closer ties come from politicians here in the East Midlands. Some of the region's businesses say they can cope without a customs deal, while others are worried about the impact that would have on our economy. Here's our political editor, Tony Rowe.
Here's a thing, a clothing fashion house still making things in the East Midlands. And in the last 2 weeks, they've had record orders. David Nieper employs 250 people at Alfreton in Derbyshire and is a company looking forward to opportunities Brexit will bring.
What we're selling, of course, is brand Britain. And brand Britain means things that are designed in Britain and made in Britain, with British quality and British pride. So actually manufacturing is a very key part of the operation here.
At Baxter Freight, they organise moving goods throughout Europe from a base in Nottingham. Here, they're worried about leaving the EU customs union without replicating the deals in place which make it easy to cross borders in a business where speed is important.
I'm an optimist by nature, not a pessimist. There are ways through this, but of course it's a deeply political issue as well as a practical issue. What we're concerned with here at Baxter Freight is the practicalities for us and for our customers, that they can keep their trade flowing with the European Union. That's what's important for us, for them, and for UK jobs, of course.
All businesses need to plan for the future. Whatever their size, what they don't want from Brexit is increased paperwork.
Now, if businesses trade within Europe, they've got one form, one process. Going forward, if they're trading with maybe France and Germany and other countries, that potentially is 2 or 3 forms. We already know the impact of time constraints to small businesses, so what we're saying is, if this is going to be the vision, let's move forward and do it simply.
Back in Alfreton, they reckon, away from constraints of the EU, our economy needs to exploit the British brand, which sells well and sells better when the pound is low.
For Britain to pay its way in the world, we've got to export more than we import, and at the moment it's the other way round. Our currency has been far too strong, and what we're doing is we're buying goods all over the world that we could be making in Britain. It's high time that Britain started making things again and generating skills within our communities, because that's the glue that holds communities together.
So if the pound does plummet in value like it did after the Brexit vote, and as long as inflation holds off at home, it could be the key to future success for companies in the East Midlands. But will it make up for fears of what could be lost by leaving the customs union?
Well, Rupert Matthews, this is turning into a key debate. We heard Christopher Nieper there saying that we can thrive without a customs union, but there are concerns that the paperwork and all the regulations involved with dealing with EU countries would be yet another cost and perhaps yet another barrier for business.
Well, I think there's 2 key problems here. The first is I've found absolutely nobody in Brussels that wants to offer us a customs union only deal. As far as they're concerned, this is part of a package deal along with free movement of people. And they're really not interested in what they call cherry picking. The other problem that
no one at all?
I haven't found anybody, no. The other problem you have with this, as you saw in the piece, is that there are great opportunities for us outside of the customs union. What the customs union does is gives the power to the European Commission to negotiate a deal for the whole of the European Union. That can very often be a cumbersome process and very often isn't really tailored to Britain's needs. Once we're outside of it, we can organise trade deals and negotiate them which actually suit British interests, and in my view that could lead to a much more prosperous future than where we are stuck within this very restrictive, protectionist customs union.
We saw and heard, didn't we, there, Ian Baxter, the businessman, who says he does so much trade with the EU. How on earth can you reassure people like him?
Well, once we've got a trade deal in place, and personally I'm absolutely confident that we will get a trade deal before we leave the European Union, of course the negotiation and going on, moving goods across borders these days is very simple. You have electronic manifests, you can do all the paperwork in advance. It's not like it was 20, even 10 years ago. A logistics company like that will be able to move goods.
Liz Rupert's making it sound like it's really simple, really straightforward. Can it be?
It's just cloud cuckoo land. I mean, if we're out of a customs union, there will be so much more red tape, For businesses, we risk, if there's no deal, going on to WTO rules, which would put huge tariffs on our car industry and food manufacturing. None of the proposals the government has put forward will work. We simply don't have the technology in place. And even the customs partnership has united David Davis and Brussels, saying it won't work. We want tariff-free, frictionless trade and access. I think that absolutely means staying in the customs union. It's very interesting. I think there's support, a majority in the House of Commons for this. They're going to be very important votes on this coming up.
Your party's committed to exploring the idea of a customs union. You'd like to see it, but the argument, of course, is that would tie our hands while doing any other deals with other countries.
Well, what is interesting is that Germany exports 4 times more than we do to China already, and they're part of the EU. So we can improve and increase our export by remaining part of the biggest free trade area, and I think, especially in the East Midlands, where at least 1 in 10 jobs are in manufacturing, where we work right across Europe, where we want as little red tape as possible, we need to stay in the customs union.
Liz has got a point. We do so much of our business here is with manufacturing, and we rely a lot on that relationship with the EU.
The share of Britain's trade going to the European Union has been long-term decline, certainly for the past 15, 20 years, and is going to continue to do so.
£9 billion
the growth market,
£9 billion a year.
The growth market is outside of the European Union. So long as we remain within that customs union, the European Commission will negotiate all the trade deals on our behalf.
Germany still
they
trades
can
with
give
China.
away.
How do they
can
manage
give
that?
away access to our markets. They can give away advantages that we would have. And because we would be outside of the structures of the European Union, there wouldn't be a British commissioner, there wouldn't be a British seat on the council. And as Norway, as other countries have found, the European Commission will do what is advantageous to the European Union, and from their point of view, that's quite right.
Well, Liz, you say that it's really important for the East Midlands to get the right deal here. Maybe businesses in Leicester, though, I mean, that could really take advantage of that multicultural link that they have with countries like India, for example, and that would be of benefit to cities like Leicester.
And we do, and there is nothing preventing us right here, right now, in increasing our trade with places like India and China. And what I have heard, particularly from our food manufacturers in Leicester, big employers, is that they are very worried about all the red tape and possible extra tariffs. And I think that's why remaining in the customs union is the best possible deal.
Thank you, both of you. Now, this Thursday...